Have you ever wondered why some people seem to move through life as if they possess a secret map that everyone else is blind to? Not stronger, not luckier, not even more talent, just clever. The kind of clever that allows a person to walk into a room and instantly understand who holds real power and who merely performs it. The kind of clever that recognizes deception before it speaks. The kind of clever that sees opportunities hidden inside disasters while others are still crying over what was lost. Most people believe cleverness is something you are born with. Machiavelli would disagree. He would tell you that cleverness is not intelligence. It is not education. It is not wisdom. It is perception sharpened by reality. And reality is a brutal teacher. Because the first lesson you must learn is that the world does not reward innocence. It rewards understanding. From childhood, people are taught dangerous fantasies. They are told that honesty always wins, that hard work is always noticed, that good intentions protect good people, that everyone deserves trust until they prove otherwise. But life has a way of dismantling these illusions. You work hard and watch someone less capable receive the promotion. You remain loyal and discover betrayal. You tell the truth and are punished while liars prosper. You open your heart and realize that some people only approached you because they needed something. The world begins teaching a different lesson. A darker lesson. A more useful lesson. People are not what they claim to be. People are what they repeatedly do when their interests are at stake. This is where cleverness begins. Not with knowledge, with observation. Machiavelli understood something that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Human beings are creatures of self-interest. Not always, not completely, but far more often than they admit. The clever person understands this without becoming bitter. The fool hears this truth and becomes cynical. The clever person hears it and becomes aware. There is a difference. Cynicism blinds you. Awareness enlightens you. One assumes everyone is evil. The other simply understands that everyone has motives, and motives reveal everything. Imagine two people speaking to you. One praises you constantly. The other occasionally criticizes you. Most people instinctively trust the first person. The clever person asks a different question. What does each person gain from my perception? Immediately the entire situation changes. The praise becomes suspicious, the criticism becomes valuable, the surface disappears, the motives emerge. This is the art of becoming clever, learning to look beyond appearances. Because appearances are the favorite weapon of ambitious people. A weak man wants to be seen as strong. An insecure woman wants to be seen as confident. A manipulator wants to be seen as kind. A liar wants to be seen as trustworthy. A coward wants to be seen as brave. Everyone is managing an image. Everyone is performing. Everyone is editing reality. And the person who believes the performance becomes the victim of it. Machiavelli lived in a world filled with kings, generals, politicians, traitors, merchants, and opportunists. He observed something timeless. People rarely reveal their true intentions directly. Instead, intentions leak through behavior. A person may tell you they respect you, but do they listen when you speak? A person may claim loyalty, but do they remain present when you lose status? A person may promise support, but where are they when supporting you becomes costly? Words are cheap, behavior is expensive, and clever people pay attention to expenses. They know that truth hides inside actions because actions require commitment. Anyone can make promises. Few can make sacrifices. This is why cleverness requires patience. Most people judge too quickly. They see one kind gesture and declare someone trustworthy. One insult and declare someone an enemy. One success and declare someone brilliant. One failure and declare someone incompetent. They mistake moments for patterns. The clever person studies patterns, because patterns reveal character, and character predicts behavior. Once you understand this, a strange transformation begins. You stop reacting emotionally to every event. You start studying it. Someone insults you. Instead of becoming angry, you become curious. Why now? Why publicly? Who benefits? What insecurity is being revealed? Someone suddenly becomes friendly. Instead of becoming flattered, you become observant. What changed? What do they want? Why this timing? Where is this leading? This shift alone places you ahead of most people. Because emotional people are predictable. Predictable people are controllable. Manipulators understand this perfectly. They know that if they can control your emotions, they can often control your decisions. Make someone angry and they stop thinking. Make someone desperate and they accept bad deals. Make someone fearful and they surrender power. Make someone insecure and they seek validation. The clever person protects their mind by understanding their emotions, not suppressing them. Understanding them, because emotions are information, but they are terrible masters. A clever individual learns to experience emotion without becoming enslaved by it. This creates a frightening advantage. Imagine two men facing betrayal. One explodes with rage. He sends messages, makes threats, creates drama. The other remains silent. He studies. He learns. He observes who stood with him and who disappeared. Months later, one man has only scars. The other possesses knowledge, and knowledge compounds. Machiavelli knew that power belongs to those who see clearly, while others are blinded by emotion. This is why cleverness often appears cold. Not because clever people lack feelings, because they refuse to allow feelings to obscure reality. Reality remains reality whether it hurts or not, and pain often contains information that comfort tries to hide. Think about the people who have hurt you most. If you examine those experiences honestly, you may discover that warning signs existed from the beginning, but hope blinded you. Loneliness blinded you. Desire blinded you. Ego blinded you. You saw what you wanted to see, not what existed. This is one of the greatest obstacles to cleverness. Human beings do not merely observe reality. They interpret it through desires, and desires distort perception. A man desires love. He ignores red flags. A woman desires approval. She tolerates disrespect. An employee desires promotion. He trusts people he should not trust. A leader desires admiration. He surrounds himself with flatterers. Desire creates blindness. The clever person constantly asks a dangerous question. What if I am wrong? That question alone can save years of suffering, because intelligence often creates arrogance, and arrogance destroys perception. The smartest people are frequently deceived because they become convinced they cannot be deceived. Machiavelli would smile at this irony. The moment you believe yourself immune to manipulation is the moment manipulation becomes easiest. True cleverness includes humility, not weakness. Humility. The humility to recognize that every human being has blind spots. Every human being has vulnerabilities. Every human being can be influenced, including you, especially you. Once you accept this, you become harder to control, because awareness is armor. The dangerous person is not the one who believes they are invincible. The dangerous person is the one who knows exactly where they are vulnerable. Such a person can compensate, adapt, prepare. This leads to another uncomfortable truth. Most people spend more time managing appearances than improving reality. They want to look intelligent rather than become intelligent. They want to look successful rather than create success. They want to appear powerful rather than develop power. This obsession with image creates opportunities for the clever observer, because when someone becomes focused on appearances, they begin revealing their insecurities. The man obsessed with displaying wealth may secretly fear insignificance. The person constantly seeking attention may secretly fear invisibility. The individual endlessly talking about confidence may secretly be terrified. Human beings often advertise what they lack, and clever people listen carefully to advertisements. Machiavelli understood that every strength contains a weakness. Every weakness contains a strength. The loudest person in the room may be the easiest to provoke. The quietest person may possess the most information. The most charming person may be hiding the darkest intentions. The most overlooked person may become the greatest threat. Nothing is ever as simple as it appears. This complexity is why becoming clever requires abandoning simplistic thinking. Good people can commit terrible acts. Bad people can perform generous deeds. Friends can become enemies. Enemies can become allies. Loyalty can disappear. Trust can return. Human beings are fluid. Context changes behavior. Pressure reveals character. And power transforms intentions. One of Machiavelli's most disturbing observations was that many people behave differently once power enters the equation. Give someone authority. Watch them carefully. Power acts like fire. It reveals what already existed beneath the surface. A kind person with power often becomes more generous. A cruel person with power often becomes more dangerous. A coward with power often becomes tyrannical. A clever person understands this and studies how people behave when consequences disappear. Because true character emerges when restraint vanishes. Watch how people treat those who cannot benefit them. Watch how they behave when nobody is watching. Watch how they respond when they finally get what they wanted. There you will discover truths that words never reveal. And perhaps the most important lesson of all is this: never confuse being clever with being manipulative. Many people make that mistake. Manipulation is merely one tool. Cleverness is something larger. It is the ability to understand reality without illusion, to recognize patterns others miss, to anticipate consequences before they arrive, to see beneath appearances, to understand motives, to navigate human nature without becoming consumed by it, because the ultimate goal is not domination. It is freedom. Freedom from deception. Freedom from naivety. Freedom from self-delusion. Freedom from becoming a pawn in games you never realized were being played. Most people move through life asleep. They react instead of observe. They assume instead of investigate. They trust appearances instead of studying reality. And because of this, they become easy to predict, easy to influence, easy to control. But there comes a moment in every person's life when innocence breaks. A betrayal, a humiliation, a disappointment, a painful revelation, and suddenly the world looks different. The masks become visible. The hidden motives become obvious. The games become impossible to ignore. Some people respond by becoming bitter. Others respond by becoming wiser. Machiavelli would advise a third path. Become clever, because cleverness is not the abandonment of morality. It is the abandonment of illusion. And once illusions disappear, you begin seeing the world as it truly is. A battlefield of perception, ambition, fear, desire, loyalty, deception, and power, where those who understand human nature possess an advantage that no amount of brute force can ever replace. And the deeper you look into that battlefield, the more unsettling a realization begins to emerge. The greatest deception you will ever encounter is not the deception of others. It is the deception you practice upon yourself, the lies you tell yourself about your own motives, your own fears, your own weaknesses, your own ambitions. Because before you can become clever enough to understand the world, you must become courageous enough to understand yourself. And that is where the true Machiavellian journey begins. There is a reason most people never reach this point. Not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack opportunity, but because self-knowledge is terrifying. It is far easier to expose the weaknesses of others than to confront the weaknesses hidden within yourself. Human beings possess an extraordinary ability to see deception everywhere except in the mirror. They notice manipulation in strangers but justify it in themselves. They criticize arrogance in others while secretly feeding their own ego. They condemn ambition publicly while nurturing it privately. And so they spend their lives fighting enemies outside themselves while remaining blind to the one enemy that controls everything, their own illusions. Machiavelli understood something that few are willing to accept. The person who understands himself becomes difficult to deceive. The person who does not understand himself becomes vulnerable to every clever predator who crosses his path. Why? Because people are manipulated through their weaknesses. A man desperate for approval can be controlled with praise. A man obsessed with status can be controlled with recognition. A man terrified of loneliness can be controlled with attention. A man addicted to certainty can be controlled with ideology. Every chain begins as a desire. Every prison begins as an attachment. And every manipulation begins with a weakness the victim refuses to acknowledge. This is why becoming clever requires ruthless honesty. Not toward others, toward yourself. Ask yourself what truly motivates you. Not the answer that sounds noble, not the answer that protects your self-image, the real answer, the uncomfortable answer, the answer that hides behind excuses. Because hidden motives control visible behavior. Most people spend years pretending they want one thing when they actually want something entirely different. They claim they want peace while pursuing validation. They claim they want love while pursuing attention. They claim they want freedom while pursuing comfort. They claim they want truth while pursuing agreement. And because they never identify their real motivations, they never gain control over them. The clever person digs deeper. He wants to know what is driving him, what fear keeps him awake, what insecurity influences his decisions, what wound shapes his behavior, what ambition fuels his actions. Not because he wants to eliminate these forces, because he wants to understand them. Anything understood can be managed. Anything ignored can control you. Think about how many people spend their lives reacting instead of choosing. Someone insults them. Their mood collapses. Someone praises them. Their confidence explodes. Someone ignores them. Their self-worth disappears. Someone criticizes them. Their identity feels threatened. They are not governing themselves. They are being governed by external events. Their emotional state belongs to whoever pulls the right strings. Machiavelli would see this as a form of weakness. Not moral weakness, strategic weakness. Because whoever controls your emotions influences your decisions. And whoever influences your decisions influences your future. The clever individual recognizes this danger. He understands that emotional discipline is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming sovereign. A king who cannot control his kingdom loses power. A mind that cannot control itself loses freedom. That freedom becomes increasingly valuable as you begin to understand another uncomfortable truth about human nature. Most people do not want reality. They want comfort. This is why lies spread faster than truth, why illusions survive longer than facts, why appearances often defeat substance. Reality demands effort. Fantasy provides relief. And because fantasy feels better, people frequently choose it. A clever person learns to resist this temptation. He learns to value truth even when truth damages his pride. Especially when truth damages his pride, because every painful truth contains power. Every comforting illusion contains weakness. Imagine two men receiving criticism. One immediately becomes defensive, he explains, justifies, argues, protects his ego. The other listens carefully, not because the criticism is necessarily correct, because information is valuable. Even if only 10% of the criticism is true, the 10% can become an advantage. This is one of the hidden differences between average people and clever people. Average people seek validation. Clever people seek information. Validation feels good. Information creates power. And power often comes from places where nobody else is willing to look. Consider failure. Most people fear it, avoid it, hide from it. Yet failure reveals truths that success often conceals. Success can be accidental. Failure is usually educational. When something collapses, reality becomes visible. Excuses disappear. Weaknesses emerge. Flaws reveal themselves. The clever person studies these moments obsessively, because every defeat contains a lesson hidden inside the pain. Most people experience pain and focus only on suffering. The clever person experiences pain and searches for information. This mindset transforms everything. Suddenly betrayal becomes education. Humiliation becomes insight. Loss becomes training. Disappointment becomes revelation. What destroys one person strengthens another, because one person experiences events while the other extracts knowledge from them. Machiavelli admired this ability, the capacity to convert adversity into understanding. Because understanding compounds, every lesson learned becomes a weapon against future mistakes. Every observation strengthens perception. Every painful experience sharpens judgment. Over time, something remarkable begins to happen. You stop being surprised by human behavior. Not because people become predictable, because human nature becomes familiar. You begin recognizing patterns. The ambitious employee who disguises competition as friendship, the manipulator who presents control as concern, the opportunist who appears loyal while benefits exist, the jealous individual who masks resentment with politeness, the insecure leader who mistakes obedience for respect. You have seen these characters before. Different faces, different names, same psychology. And once patterns become visible, the game changes, because prediction becomes possible. Most people react after events occur. The clever person anticipates them beforehand. He sees tensions building before conflict erupts. He notices resentment before betrayal arrives. He detects insecurity before aggression appears. He observes ambition before competition becomes visible. This ability creates an extraordinary advantage, not because it allows perfect foresight, because it reduces unnecessary surprises. Life becomes easier when you understand how people actually behave, instead of how you wish they behaved. Yet there is another lesson Machiavelli would insist upon, one that many misunderstand. Do not underestimate appearances. Earlier, we spoke about seeing beyond them. But cleverness also requires understanding their power. The world judges what it sees, not what exists, at least initially. Reality matters, but perception influences access to reality. A brilliant idea ignored has little value. A capable person overlooked remains limited. A powerful individual perceived as weak invites attack. This does not mean becoming fake. It means understanding presentation. People often imagine that substance and appearance are enemies. In reality, they work together. Substance creates strength. Appearance communicates strength. Neglect either one and opportunities disappear. Machiavelli observed rulers constantly. The most successful understood this principle. They cultivated capability while managing perception. They understood that public image affects behavior. People respond not only to what you are, but also to what they believe you are. This is neither fair nor unfair. It is simply reality. And clever people adapt to reality instead of arguing with it. But perhaps the darkest lesson of all concerns trust. Trust is essential. Yet blind trust is dangerous. Many people move between two extremes. They trust everyone. Then they trust no one. Both positions create problems. The first invites exploitation. The second creates isolation. The clever person chooses a different path. Conditional trust, measured trust, observed trust. Trust people according to evidence. Increase trust when actions support it. Reduce trust when actions contradict it. Allow behavior to determine access. Not promises, not emotions, not hopes. This simple principle can prevent countless disasters. Because disappointment often emerges when expectations exceed evidence. People expect loyalty that was never demonstrated, honesty that was never proven, commitment that was never earned. Then reality arrives and they call it betrayal. The clever individual avoids many of these situations because he evaluates people through observation rather than fantasy. This does not make him cold. It makes him prepared. Preparation is one of the defining characteristics of clever people. They understand that most crises are not random. Warning signs usually appear beforehand. Signals emerge. Patterns develop. Clues accumulate. The problem is that people ignore them. Why? Because warnings are inconvenient. Acknowledging danger requires action. Action requires effort. Effort creates discomfort. And so people convince themselves everything is fine until consequences become unavoidable. The clever person does the opposite. He pays attention early. He notices small changes, small inconsistencies, small shifts in behavior, small signs of instability, because small problems are easier to manage than large disasters. This principle applies everywhere. Relationships, business, leadership, friendships, politics, power. Life rewards those who notice what others dismiss. And nowhere is this more important than in understanding ambition. Ambition is one of the most misunderstood forces in human nature. People pretend it is rare. It is everywhere. Hidden beneath politeness, disguised as cooperation, masked by humility, nearly everyone wants something: more status, more influence, more recognition, more security, more control. The clever person never forgets this. He understands that beneath every social interaction lies a network of desires, some obvious, some hidden, some acknowledged, some denied. And these desires shape behavior far more than words ever will. Observe what people pursue consistently. There you will discover what truly matters to them, not what they claim to value, what they sacrifice for. Because sacrifice reveals priorities. A person may speak endlessly about family while sacrificing everything for career. Another may speak about integrity while abandoning principles for convenience. Actions expose values, words advertise them. Clever people learn the difference. As years pass, this understanding creates a profound transformation. You become less naive, but also less angry, because anger often comes from unrealistic expectations. When you expect human beings to be perfect, disappointment becomes constant. When you understand human nature, disappointment becomes information. You stop asking why people behave according to their interests. You start asking how those interests influence outcomes. This shift is subtle, but powerful. It turns emotional reactions into strategic thinking. And strategic thinking creates freedom. The freedom to choose responses instead of impulses. The freedom to recognize manipulation before it succeeds. The freedom to navigate complex situations without losing yourself. The freedom to understand power without worshipping it. The freedom to see reality clearly. And clarity may be the rarest advantage of all, because the modern world is built upon distraction. Noise surrounds you constantly. Opinions, narratives, performances, outrage, propaganda, algorithms competing for attention, people shouting for validation, everyone trying to influence perception, everyone competing for focus. In such an environment, clear thinking becomes a superpower. The ability to observe without immediately reacting, to question without immediately believing, to think without immediately conforming, to analyze without immediately judging. This is the final stage of becoming clever. Not merely understanding others, understanding the game itself, seeing the invisible forces shaping behavior, recognizing how fear drives crowds, how incentives shape decisions, how status influences beliefs, how perception alters reality, how power moves beneath the surface. Most people spend their lives trapped inside these forces without recognizing them. They become pieces on the board. The clever person studies the board itself. And once you begin studying the board, a strange thing happens. You stop seeking control over everyone. You start seeking control over yourself, because that is where true power lives. Not in domination, not in intimidation, not in manipulation, but in mastery. The mastery to remain calm when others panic. The mastery to think when others react. The mastery to observe when others assume. The mastery to adapt when others resist. The mastery to face reality when others hide from it. Machiavelli understood that kingdoms rise and fall, fortunes appear and disappear, alliances form and collapse, reputations grow and vanish. Everything changes, everything moves, everything evolves. Except one thing: human nature. The fears remain, the desires remain, the ambitions remain, the insecurities remain, the hunger for significance remains. And the person who understands these forces gains access to a level of perception unavailable to most people. That perception becomes wisdom. That wisdom becomes power. And that power becomes freedom. Not freedom from struggle, not freedom from pain, not freedom from loss, but freedom from blindness, because blindness is the greatest vulnerability of all. The blind man walks toward danger without seeing it. The blind mind walks through life without understanding it. Do not be that person. Look deeper, question appearances, study behavior. Challenge assumptions, observe motives, confront your own illusions, learn from pain, protect your attention, master your emotions, refuse comforting lies. Seek understanding where others seek validation. And when the world rewards performance over substance, choose substance first and learn to present it wisely. Because the art of becoming clever is not about becoming ruthless. It is about becoming impossible to deceive. It is about developing eyes sharp enough to see through masks, minds disciplined enough to resist manipulation, and judgment strong enough to navigate a world where appearances constantly compete with reality. The masses will continue chasing approval. The masses will continue believing what is convenient. The masses will continue confusing confidence with competence, popularity with value, noise with truth, and appearance with character. Let them. Your path is different. Your task is different. Your responsibility is different. See what others ignore. Understand what others deny. Master what others surrender. Because the moment you stop living through illusion and begin living through perception, you step into a level of awareness that changes every conversation, every relationship, every opportunity, every conflict, and every decision for the rest of your life. And when that moment arrives, when the masks finally become visible, when the hidden motives reveal themselves, when reality stands naked before your eyes and you realize how much of the world is driven by fear, desire, ambition, insecurity, and power, do not turn away from what you see. Stand there, look directly into it, learn from it, master it, and then become so perceptive, so disciplined, so strategically aware, and so relentlessly committed to truth that no lie can seduce you, no manipulation can own you, no illusion can blind you, and no force on earth can stop you from becoming the most intelligent architect of your own destiny.
अंधेरी दीवारों में खुद को ढूंढता हूँ मैं। ये जो दिन सहाने थे उन्हीं को सोचता हूँ मैं। तुम्हारे बिन ये मौसम भी बड़ा बेसर्द लगता है। दिल का हर एक कोना अब बहुत ही दूर भरता है। अंधेरी दीवारों में खुद को ढूंढता हूँ मैं। ये जो दिन सुहाने थे उन्हीं को सोचता हूँ मैं। तुम्हारे बिन ये मौसम भी बड़ा सर्द लगता है। दिल का हर एक कोना बहुत ही दर्द भरता है। मेरे साए भी मुझसे अब जुदा होने को कहते हैं। तुझे खोने की राहों में ये आंसू बहने लगते हैं। कहाँ जाऊं कहाँ ढूंढूं मेरा वो साजो सामा तो मेरी हर एक तमन्ना तू मेरी रूह का मका तू। लकीरों में नहीं लिखा जो तुमने ख्वाब देखा था। वफा की इस कहानी में फकत एक गम ही लिखा था। सितारों से भी पूछता है पता तेरा कहाँ होगा, मगर खामोश है दुनिया कहाँ मेरा जहाँ होगा। बस मुझे है आज भी तेरी वफा की सख्त जरूरत। साए मेरे तन्हा सफर बस रह गया दर्द का असर। साए मेरे तन्हा सफर बस रह गया दर्द का असर, दर्द का असर।